Check, check, check. Check. Short press. Got it. Sorry, I was trying to figure out the short press, long press, double press, triple press. Yes, short press. Short press is the answer. So, absolutely. Thank you, and thank you guys for having us. We're going to, we've been asked to come and talk about internet safety and I guess what we do in our job. Um, we're going to be presenting a presentation that's been produced by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and we'll tell you a little bit about who they are, what they do, and how that affects every part of our life in our job. So my name is Michael Bryan. I've been with the Sheriff's Office for about 20 years, and I've been working in internet crimes against children for the last 8 years, since 2016. My job primarily is as a digital forensic analyst, doing the forensics for investigations that involved child exploitation and child solicitation. So in this presentation this evening, we're going to be talking about some adult topics, which is why there's just adults in this conversation, and how those things can affect your children and the children that you know, the children of the church, children of the school, and despite being in a safe place, how it really tends to affect all families across all walks. Before we do that, we're going to introduce my partner Seth, and let him introduce himself.
Well, I don't know if they can hear me online because we only have one microphone.
It's all right. It's all right. I'll get you close.
Staying close to them. We typically are close to each other. I'm closer with him than I am with my own family. Anyway. But my name is Seth Mills. I've been doing ICAC investigations for about 2 years now, a little over 2 years now. Mike is sort of my mentor and teacher, so I've been able to learn a lot from him. I've been with the Sheriff's Office for a total of 7 years. Was a teacher before that, and so love what I do. Wouldn't trade it for any other unit at the Sheriff's Office. It's one of the most rewarding things I think that we can do is kind of try to solve these crimes, help these true victims. So looking forward to tonight. Gonna let him do most of the talking, but certainly will chime in here and there to try to add, and hopefully you'll get a good bit out of this short time we have together.
And so I guess administratively, my goal is to go roughly an hour. Like I told Ms. Witherspoon, it's never happened before. So, if you're like, hey, the trees are blowing sideways, I probably need to get home. You're not going to offend me if you get up. I'll talk all night long. And so also this is interactive. And so we're going to be asking you questions, or if you want to jump in, if you got a question about something I'm saying mid-sentence, just, shout it out, and we'll go down that rabbit hole. It doesn't bother me one bit. And so please feel free to ask whatever you need to ask, or what you feel led to ask. That way you guys can get absolutely obviously the most out of this that you can. So let's go to first slide. What is NetSmarts and what is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children? So the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, you'll find most of their work is in missing children and also child exploitation. So they're the people that produce and publish all the missing kid posters that you see in Walmart or in other locations. But more importantly, in our work, they're the national clearinghouse for all things that are child exploitation and child solicitation, or anything in that flavor that's online and on the internet. All the companies that operate in the U.S. are required by federal law to, if it's within their normal business practices, to check for child exploitation or child solicitation, that they are to report it to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and then those reports get forwarded to our office. And that's the bread and butter of our investigations. And so we get a couple of those every day. And currently we have a couple hundred active cases that we're investigating within Greenville County. So it's not just me and Seth. We have a team of us. If you follow the sheriff's office, they put out a video within the last 2 weeks or so about our office. But we've got 3 primary investigators that do the investigations, myself and another investigator who do the forensics on those, and then also may have seen we have also an electronic detection dog, and actually we just got our second one. The first one just retired, and so this dog is one that goes out and locates electronics being used by criminals, and so it can find SD cards, cell phones, laptops, things like that. And so those types of items, if they're hidden away from us, it's the dog's job to go find those. So they produce a lot of material as part of their awareness campaign. Some of that is in this NetSmarts presentation. You can find this presentation and ones like it on their website, netsmarts.org, and they have material geared for every single age, from early elementary all the way through high school. And so depending on what age we're presenting to, we just grab the appropriate presentation and we'll go give it. And why am I stealing their material? Well, 1, they asked me to, and 2, it's really well done. And so, and I think you guys would agree, you'd probably rather have us working on our casework and not making beautiful PowerPoints. And so we're going to steal this beautiful PowerPoint and we're going to add some more stories in there to make it real and tell you what's actually going on here in Greenville, and let you know what the things that are presented in this national level presentation and how they are absolutely real and absolutely happening every day right here in Greenville. All right, so what do your children do online? We'll start there. What do your kids do online? Play games. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? YouTube. Yep. Google. Yep. A lot of Googling. Almost the entire education system has been, and at least in public school, has been put online now through Google Classroom and PowerSchool and some other sources. I think my kids go to public school, and almost everything they do is online. They don't have textbooks anymore. Everything is held 100% online, and they use online resources to do that. They play, download music, probably play things like Roblox or Minecraft, and so there's lots and lots of things that we do in and online, and which those all create vectors for kind of danger. So, in what ways do we go? You can move on. Yep. In what ways do we get online? Like probably their laptop. If they have a cell phone, maybe their cell phone, maybe your cell phone. Through their friends' computers, through their school computers, through e-readers like the Kindle or the Nook. If anybody still has an iPod Touch around, those can also get online. And some that we don't think about a lot are the gaming consoles. Gaming consoles also have web browsing, and all kind of chat features. And so there's lots of avenues that the kids are able to access online, and all of those present certain dangers that we're going to discuss tonight. So the main focus of this is that we cannot give you a one button solution to how to keep your kids safe. You say, well, what can I install on my kid's phone, or what can I install on my kid's computer? We can't tell you that. Not because we can't endorse something, although that's part of it, but nothing is foolproof, and nothing is going to catch everything. And there's ways to get around all of that. And so the only way that you can truly keep them away from any type of danger online is to keep them offline. Now, that's not generally the best way to raise kids these days, and it's also impractical. And so we would advocate that they're not kept exclusively offline, but that we start at a very young age on how to raise good online citizens and good online kids, and make sure that they understand the dangers of that. And so let's see. Yep. So what are y'all's kids' favorite apps right now? Fortnite. Okay. Or games. It could be apps or games. YouTube's. Maybe Roblox. If you got any that are old enough, I'm not sure what the age of the kids here would be, but maybe some level of social media, whether it's monitored or not monitored, or we even. Yeah. It is just, well, that's messaging, and it's that feels sometimes safe because it's only to people that you approve, and you can see those messages. That's not your net, yeah. And so there's lots of all that also requires active monitoring. So if they're in those things, that it requires active monitoring to be on top of those. Also remember that they have any type of gaming system, that all those games have methods of communication with other players and other people out in the world. We're going to show a quick TikTok video, because why not? It's an internet presentation, right? So, but the purpose of this is that they are really, kids want to hear from you. All right, so kids are always looking for your advice and your feedback, whether they tell you that or not. They really are. So let's watch this real quickly. I think we just go to the next one. And if it doesn't.
A child's perspective, growing up with somebody like yourself. For parents, it's a huge thing to have the ability to just listen and have an open dialogue, because at the end of the day, children don't have anybody to ask about how life works. They're just thrown into this crazy world, and they have no idea how to interact with it and interpret it. And they need somebody like a parent, whether it's their parent or somebody else's, to help them learn and understand. And if you're not providing that to your kid, they're gonna have some problems online, right? It's just the name of the game.
Easy and quick, and that the thing is that like I said, the kids are always looking. They want guidance and they want direction, whether they tell you that or not. One of my many things that takes up my time is I coach volleyball at a middle school level, and I also coach a 16th level, so these are sophomores in high school. But every day I interact with these girls, and every single day they're just begging for feedback. They're begging for attention. They want that interaction. They want that approval. And our own kids want that as well, whether they show that or not. But they want that approval. They want that feedback. They want that positive affirmation. And with that gives us opportunity to talk about safety online and safety on the internet. Most of the time, it's not them not wanting to hear this information. It's us not wanting to have that uncomfortable conversation about this type of information. Because we've got to talk about things like bullying and sexting and pornography and just all the inappropriate content that's all over the internet. And so we are nervous as parents to mention these things, think that somehow we're going to damage the innocence of our children, when the reality is that they're getting that from all their other social interactions. And I would, even presenting this in a church, at a church school, I would bet my paycheck that they're hearing it in these circles as well. Because even if we run a tight ship in our own household, that doesn't mean everybody else does. And so there's always that avenue for these conversations to come up. And so I would just be, we got to take that, kind of be brave there and try to, ready to make that, start that conversation. Let's go to the next slide. When do we want to do that? Well, we want to do that as soon as they can pick up a cell phone. You know, as soon as you put a tablet in their hand, even if it's the one that's padded all the way around and you got to put a password in it, we've got to be talking to them about good online behavior, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, you know, and what are the dangers of the internet. Things on this, they're listed like that we may not think of, like, you know, if they're watching YouTube and things are popping up or they're getting suggestions, they need to be aware that there might be danger around that corner, and what should they do about that. We have to teach them that not everybody is a friend online. In fact, most people aren't a friend online. That just because they seem friendly or just because they have those same interests doesn't mean that they actually are. A good example of kind of the spectrum of this is how we teach our children to use a seatbelt or to drive a car. Like, we don't go talking to our 18-month-old child about the importance of using their turn signal, or make sure they're dimming their lights before, you know, approaching an oncoming car, and why it's important to stay on the right-hand side of the road and not drive through that giant puddle that's in front of us, right? We put the seatbelt on them, and we pat them on the side, and we go about our business. And then when they get a little bit older, we have them help put the seatbelt on. And they ask, well, why do I need to do that? Well, we need to do that so that you don't get hurt in case of a wreck. And as they get older, you know, then we talk a little bit more about seatbelt safety, and we talk more about driving safety as they move from the back seat of the car maybe to the front seat of the car. Now they can see more things. And that's the same with online safety. You know, we need to be having these conversations very young. But with my 2-year-old, I'm not going to have a conversation about the dangers of online enticement and sexting and cyberbullying. You know, I'm going to talk about things like, you know, make sure that if anything's scary online that you come and tell me. I'm going to, you know, and at the same reason I'm with my 16-year-old, I'm not going to have a conversation about why that she should not be sharing her passwords online. She understands that, right? But she may not understand how she needs to deal with when her boyfriend asks her for inappropriate pictures, and how that we're not going to be mad at her when she needs help and somebody to turn to, and how to answer those questions, right? And so we got to make it age appropriate, and we need to start as early as possible. All right, so this is going to be just an example of how do we talk to our young kids. Because sometimes we don't know, and not to sound like an advertisement for Nick, although they're great people, this is a great way you can start. And if you don't know, just go on their website and find a video.
What are you doing here?
Oh, hi, Webster.
Hey, what's wrong?
Go ahead, Zion. You can tell them. They're Nat Smart's kids. They might know ways to help.
Okay, so remember how I showed you some of my pins? Well, like I said, that was only some of them. I've got tons.
All right. So the NetSmarts has a lot of different videos that are like this that can help start these conversations, right? So they watch the quick cartoon. It probably registers with them if they're familiar playing Minecraft or Roblox or have any of these other many other games, and that allows, you know, so after we've watched it together with our kids, and now it gives you the opportunity to just ask, was anybody ever asked you for anything odd? Or has anybody ever made you feel uncomfortable while you're online? And just be able to start that conversation. Our hope is that they say no. You know, that's our really and truly. But they don't always say no, because there's so many interactions and so many conversations that happen online that we're unaware of, that they've just been waiting for you to ask, because they didn't know how to bring it up, because it's very embarrassing, it's scary. We're going to talk a little bit more about the kind of the situation that happened in this video with some online exploitation and blackmail, but that's coming up in a few slides. So asking them if not only if strangers, but more importantly, and probably more likely, have their friends made them uncomfortable online at any time. And so we want to make sure that they're being safe around their friends as well. So we're going to move on into, we got to talk about trusted adults, I think. No, that's coming up. All right, so we're going to talk about some of the more touchy subjects, but this is what we do for a living, and so this is where we're at every single day. I guess before we go on there, I want to kind of reiterate that young kids are doing these types of things. And I'm going to pitch it to Seth just off. How many cyber tips do you think that we're working with elementary age kids? I mean, or can you give them an example or two of some of the cyber tips, the type of things, the YouTubes, TikToks,
Yeah, I just closed the case where it was a 8-year-old female that was contacted through TikTok and solicited, which turned into basically a sextortion, and it was not only, unfortunately, not only about just money being sent to not release the pictures. The child did share their home address, so it became more like a threatening thing, like we're going to show up at your house, things of that nature. So fortunately, we were able to track that person down in Chicago. In Chicago, Cook County was able to arrest that man. He was charged with doing it not only to our victim, but a victim in Atlanta, a victim in Memphis, Tennessee, and a victim in Texas. And so that's the ones we found. You know, sometimes things get deleted and from their devices, and maybe we don't identify all the victims. But in this case, this was kind of a serial sextortionist, if that's a term, where this young girl was as young as 8 years old. I have another case that I got this week, an 8-year-old boy, same type of situation. Started working on that case today, and odd thing about that one was some of our investigation requires us to go on to these suspects' online accounts. And so I did that today, and before I could even do what I was trying to do with his account, he was already messaging me and trying to solicit me after I told him I was 10 years old. It's usually when you find one that will do this to a child, they're doing it to many other children. So that's 2 examples, but and then also time frame. I just closed one case where we arrested somebody in Chicago, and I already have another one, and that's not even counting cyber tips, what he was discussing that we get from NICMIC. Those cases came from the parent calling in. So we have those 2 plus all these other countless ones, probably out of a couple hundred. We would typically see, I don't know, maybe 20, 25, 30 that would be under the age of 10.
Yeah, and it's not always some creepy guy in a basement somewhere. Sometimes it's the kid getting on an app and just trying to do whatever the latest trend is, and they're dancing around, but they're dancing around and they don't have any underwear on under their nightgown, and as they're spinning and turning and bending and flipping, all that's being exposed. That gets online, and people find that. Um, we've, for whatever reason, young boys like to videotape themselves on YouTube going to the bathroom. I don't know why, but they do it. I mean, I don't know how many go into the bathroom videos that we have found or that we get reported. You know, thankfully the people are reporting that. The AI is getting better at detecting that kind of thing, but we get those where it's not necessarily somebody trying to get the child to do it, but the children are exploiting themselves online inadvertently. And so we need to be able to have these conversations with our children about kind of online behavior and inappropriate content. This slide here is our lead up slide to talking about trusted adults, because my favorite example to talk about with this is, in this world there are so many wonderful places, big cities, and in big cities you can find many wonderful and beautiful things to do and beautiful things to see. So let's take, I don't know, we'll do like New York, right? There's some cool things to see in New York. We can go to Broadway, we can go to Central Park, we can see Times Square. But I don't know how many of us would take our 8-year-old to New York, drop them off and say, I'll see you in a little bit, you know, go find something nice. There's lots of nice things, museums, and there's so many good things that they can go find. But they're also one step away from getting into a whole lot of trouble and being in a whole lot of danger. And the internet is just like that. There are so many good things. All of the world's knowledge can be found on the internet at just a click of a button. And now with ChatGPT, one of our favorite things, we can ask it to explain it to us in a way that we can understand it, and it can do it instantaneously. We don't even have to look for it. We can just ask it a question and we get the answer, and it's generally good information, but one step away from that is really, really bad stuff and really, really bad things. So we have to be able to present that and let our kids know that that's there, so that they know that we are here for them when they need that. And we need to become a trusted adult for our children. What does trusted adult mean? So you're like, of course I'm a trusted adult. I'm their mom, or I'm their dad. I'm the most trusted adult. That's not what this means. This is from their perspective out. They need to have somebody that they can trust, that when they find something dangerous, scary, or uncomfortable, that they know that they can come to this person without fear of getting in a whole lot of trouble. We need to make sure that you're presenting a spirit of helpfulness, that we are remaining calm and we're not freaking out because something has gone wrong. We need to understand what the boundaries of that conversation are, and where we need to navigate. We don't need to run, make this thing a huge blown up deal if it's not. We need to be able to help them recover from whatever mistake that they've made. We will talk about a little bit, we can talk about it now, we'll skip it later. One of the biggest things that we've seen since 2022 are the exploitation of boys, teenage boys, by the Nigerians and whatever people are called in Ivory Coast, Ivory Coastians. But the Nigerians and Ivory Coast have run large, organized scams against the teenagers of the United States, and I guess probably of Europe as well. But it's essentially, a scam works like this. They meet you online somewhere, it doesn't matter. It could be Snapchat, could be TikTok, could be YouTube, doesn't matter. And they are just a beautiful young lady, and they're interested in whatever you're interested in. And they say you're the best looking thing in the world. They send a picture of themselves. They're beautiful. They ask for a spicy picture of the boy. Of course, he's a teenager, so he's going to be like, yeah. Takes a picture of his shirt off, and they're like, no, more. Maybe they send a nude image of what appears to be the nude image of the girl. They get the nude image of the boy, and immediately they flip that around. They'll put, hey, this person is a pedophile, written all over that picture, and he tried to solicit a little kid, and you need to send me $50 or I'm going to send this out, just like that video showed. And the kids, sometimes they send it. If they send it, then they ask for more money. If they send more money, they ask for more money. And they'll continue to do that until the kid can't do it anymore, and then they'll release the pictures out to their friend group and to their family. There's no end to the exploitation there. When we've tracked those cases back, the FBI and Homeland Security just closed earlier this year, late last year, 2 very large cases in those 2 countries where they're locking up a lot of people trying to recover funds because we've sent millions and millions of dollars. We used to get a call a day, maybe 2 calls a day from teenagers here in Greenville that had been exploited like that, and they didn't know what to do because they've already sent every dollar in their bank account, all $100 or whatever they had, and now the pictures are going out, and they don't know how to stop it. And the reality is you can't stop it. Because once you've made that mistake, it's gone. And we're going to talk about what happens when those pictures disappear in a video here in a minute. But we've got to be that source so when that happens to that kid that he can come to us or she can come to us without fear of judgment, without fear of being just punished. And we've got to help them get through that. Because we have a brand new law in South Carolina that resulted from a case like this. It's called Gavin's Law. That makes it a felony in South Carolina should somebody commit suicide due to sextortion or any type of blackmail coming out of sharing pictures. But that's how serious it is, and it's happened to a lot of kids across the country where, and I can remember it wasn't 6 months ago, one of my son's best buddies, and he's actually in college now, playing baseball in college. But he called me one night just crying. This is a big kid. Just crying that he's talking to some girl and now she's threatened to send the pictures out. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. I said, don't send anything out. Let me get the phone numbers. Let's see if we can track it. I said, it's not good. It's probably going to be overseas, but do not send any money. And before we got through that conversation, those pictures hit the internet and hit his Instagram account, hit his Snapchat story, and it just, and there's nothing that you could do, except, what we tell the young men is you just got to claim it. And use it as a testimony point that, hey, I screwed up. Now you've seen me naked. I'm sorry, but that's and try to frame it in a positive for them to have a pathway to recovery in that, because if we try to hide from it, there is no hiding from it. That everybody in their school is going to see that picture, and we just need to encourage them to own that, because there's no way that we can get that down completely. There are things that we can do, but we can't get it all the way down. We can get past that slide. All right, so what should the kids do should something like this happen, or should they find themselves in a bad place, particularly younger kids, they click on a link that they probably shouldn't have clicked on, turn off the screen, use the back button, get out of that, find a trusted adult, and let the trusted adult help them. If they're being exploited, use the report button in whatever app that they're using and report that. If there's not a report button immediately available, you can always go to cybertipline.org. What cybertipline.org is that those reports that we talked about that the companies are required to make, individuals can make those, and those reports then come to our office directly. So if you make a report here in Greenville, we will get that report through the cyber tip line. And that is that. That will be fine. Turning it off should be fine. Here's what we don't want you to do, and this is where our life gets really complicated as investigators trying to help your child, is Number one, don't take over your child's account and pretend to be the child to further the investigation. Because in South Carolina, that's not unlawful. You can pretend to be underage as a private citizen. That's called role play, and role play is not illegal. Next, don't cuss the person out and tell them, I'm calling the police. Because now we're just encouraging them to delete whatever they have before we can get to it. Sometimes it's recoverable, sometimes it's not. The other thing, don't delete the conversation, don't delete the account, and don't delete the app. If we find exploitation like that where somebody's having a conversation and it's something that needs a criminal investigation, then we need that phone intact as it was at the time. So just bring the phone to us, and we will take care of it from there. Things that don't need a criminal investigation, let's say your child just clicks on a link, and now they're in pornography. Okay, that's not criminal. We don't need to know that. But it's more the exploitation and then being contacted. Go ahead.
And just to add to that, when you leave here and you go home, you start working on having these conversations to kind of set up safe practices. One of the things that would help us too as investigators is, and it's not always the parent that does it, but the first knee-jerk reaction for the child is to delete their account, which also could delete evidence that would help us navigate. Sometimes I get kids that come in and they say, this person, has pictures of me, for whatever reason, whether they, made a mistake and gave them to them or whatever happened, and they can't tell us the screen name or user ID or anything like that. Well, a good way for us to be able to find that out is get on their account and be able to track down and find usernames that, people that have pictures or have solicited a minor in that way. So if you're having those conversations with your children on having safe practices and talking about kind of these tough things to navigate this other world that we have, cyberspace, go ahead and throw something like that in. Like if this happens to you, make sure you don't have that knee-jerk reaction and delete that account. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, which slide? Let's go to the next slide. The thing here is when we got to know what the privacy settings are on the apps. Let's go back one, which we need to back up and say, you need to know what the apps are that your children are using. Like if they're like, Mom, I want to get TikTok. You're like, okay, whatever, dance. You need to know how to use TikTok. You need to have TikTok on your phone, and you need to be the best TikTok user there ever was. All right? Same thing if they want to use Snapchat. And remind me, all these apps have a minimum age of 13 by law. So if your kid's lying about their age and they're on there, they're setting themselves up for danger. But you need to know how to use the apps. If you're just letting your kid roam freely on Roblox, I would learn how to use that app. I would understand what the ecosystem and the marketplace and how Roblox works, how Robux works. Same thing in Minecraft. I would learn what the difference is between a local server or a competitive game, or whatever the one is where they can actually die in the game. Understand all those differences, understand how they communicate between users, and you need to know that. There is I wrote the number down here on one of these sheets of paper, but we can't tell you about how to do every app because there's 1.81 million apps on the Apple App Store. There's 3.3 million apps on the Google Play Store, and there's 1.1 billion active public websites currently. So there's no way I could tell you how to stay safe on all those things. We just have to figure it out, and we have to figure out what our kids are on. And when they're like, hey, this is the newest, greatest thing, like when, 2 years ago, Be Real came out, and Be Real was supposed to be a little bit different. Well, we need to know how Be Real works. And so that means as a parent, I got to download it, I got to get on Be Real, and I got to figure out how people be real. And that's how that goes. All right, so So the question is, do we have any experience where the something bad happens on an app, but the family doesn't use that app, although the kid is gaining access to that app through some means? Is that the question? Um, mhm. It won't. And what we have found in my own kids, just, you know, is that I've seen examples of like floating burner phones in schools, and it's just like a community phone that somebody has an old phone, and like, so when your phone gets taken away, you know, you just go find out who has the community phone, and now you have a new phone until you get your phone back. I've seen plenty of examples. We can see it when we do the forensic extractions with account, because we can recover accounts and passwords and things. And you find a kid's phone, and it's like there's 30 different people who have signed in Snapchat on this phone. Why? It's because their phone was taken away, and they, you know, on Snapchat you're motivated by things like streaks and things like that, and then you log into your Snapchat account on somebody else's phone, catch up with whatever you need to do, maybe talk to that abuser, who knows, you know, and now you've and then you can log back out, and parents are none the wiser because you don't have access. Um, if your kids do have phones, which I wouldn't encourage that till they're older and more mature, you know, so they, you know, both iPhones and Androids have reasonable parent controls on them. You know, my kids are. I turned my son's parental controls off like 5 days after he turned 18. You know, and so even as a 17-year-old, he's like, well, I want TikTok. I was like, listen, man, I understand there's cool things on TikTok, but TikTok by its design and nature is addictive, and you struggle enough to keep your grades up. There's no way. Get your grades up, stay, you know, meet these metrics, and maybe we'll talk about it. He never did. And so, you know, so it never was a thing. But you know what? He couldn't download TikTok. And I had TikTok, the website, blocked through through his phone, so he didn't. If he accessed it, you know, through some other device. But it also controlled screen time on things like Snapchat, screen time on Instagram, and so controlling those things, we should be doing that with our kids' phones anyway. With your kids' phones, they should not be able to go to the App Store and download anything willy-nilly and just install it without your knowledge, because you never know what they're installing. I can't tell you how many kids that we get that have Tinder on their phone, or Grindr, or some of these adult dating, you know, hookup apps. And they're like, why are you on this? And I'm like, well, my buddy told me about it, and I wanted to look. Well, there's all bad. There's nothing good on those, you know, for a 14-year-old, there's nothing good, you know, on those. You can probably make an argument for good in Snapchat. You can make an argument for good in TikTok and Instagram. You cannot in Tinder, and you cannot in some of these other adult apps. And so, where are we at? Let's go. Let's keep moving. We're on slide 18 of like 175 or something. And so, like, we're gonna speed up here in a second. And so,
Hope you guys brought something to eat.
well, here's the motive. I did not eat before coming. I came straight from practice too here, and so like I'm also motivated by food, obviously. And so we're gonna move this. What was that last one? Inappropriate content? Yeah, so inappropriate content, this is really making sure that your kids know what is inappropriate. I get the honor and privilege of discussing this with my teams, because things that they post online will affect their future, you know, as an athlete. And same thing, you know, if maybe your kid's not an athlete, maybe they're an academic, right? So you're trying to get into college, or maybe they're trying to go straight into industry and get a job. It is not uncommon for businesses and schools now to check online social media accounts for the behavior of that individual when trying to get them into either a career or into an institution, or, in what I tell our kids, onto a sports team. And all that stuff, we don't, you know, maybe they've cleaned up their Instagram, We don't need anybody deep scrolling into way back into finding some crazy pictures that they did when they were in middle school or in high school, thinking that it was fun and cute. Also, just because it's something temporal like Snapchat doesn't mean somebody didn't screenshot that and it's posted up somewhere else. And so one of the big trends going around social media right now is where trainers are taking old photos of athletes and getting them to get their signatures on them, and they're like silly things. It's nothing bad, but it's, you know, they're pictures of like when they were in youth sports, or, you know, maybe they dressed up in a really terrible Halloween costume. But it's a good kind of parallel to, they're finding these old things that are online deep down somewhere that these people are embarrassed by, and that same thing can happen to us when we're not expressing that or not expecting it. So let's go back to that one, just because I want to talk about the for looking around the room. It looks like most of us did not have social media in our teenage years, and so, you know, thinking like things like capturing underage drinking, underage drug use, underage tobacco use was not a thing. Whether our kids did it or whether they were just around it, you know, now that stuff is getting captured on film, and people are getting in trouble over that. Also, when we wanted to say something mean to somebody, you had to go up to their face and you had to say it, right? There's a real risk of getting punched in the face, you know, by saying something mean. Now that's not the reality. The reality is that you can say all kind of mean things, and we see that in the comment section of everything. People say terrible things when they're not standing in front of somebody else. And we really need to have that discussion about, you need to know, if you're going to say it, you need to pretend you were standing in front of that person and willing to say it to their face to say that. And maybe they are, but that's a better way to approach it. All right, go ahead. So online privacy, what is okay and what is not okay? We do not want to share. We don't want to share our location, right? We don't want to share information about our family. We don't want to share our passwords. We don't want to share videos of the interior of our house. We don't want to create this long list of check-ins where here's where I go at all these times and places, and everybody knows that we have practice at this gym at 6 o'clock on Wednesdays. We love it because that's how we find people, through it's called open source intelligence. When people put that stuff online, that's how we find you in our work. And there's a lot of people who do that just in their private life, and they find people all over and they show up. There's a video on, it was on Netflix. It was about somebody captured a video, like a grainy video of somebody killing a cat, and that got posted online, and like the internet took charge of this and like found this person from some grainy video from far away, found them, and then just made their life absolutely miserable, which it probably should have been absolutely miserable, but it went from having no information at all to the power of the collective mind to then be able to find that. And we have seen in our work where there is if a child puts a picture online, so maybe it's an innocent picture but her skirt comes up or something like that, these guys will go into these chat groups on some of the encrypted messaging apps and have full-blown discussions about, how do we find this person? What are the clues in the video that we can tell where this person is? Can you see, can we tell anything about what school, what's hanging on the walls, what language are they speaking, what outlets are in the background, all the things, trying to identify where this child is so they can secure an identification of that person who is now exposed, so they can find more material of them. And so we need to really encourage our kids not to be putting those private details on, and of course never share explicit content. All right, let's go forward.
I'll add to that too, as far as the education component is for us as parents, trying to help our children navigate this world. Your camera on your phone oftentimes will share your location through the picture, the metadata on the picture, and most most big social media sites will scramble that for you. But if your child sends a photo through a text message or anything like that, it's possible for people to find their location or wherever that picture was taken. So if they can tell it was taken in their home, then the location's set on the phone to where it records that on pictures, then obviously you have to combat that as well. But I didn't know that type of stuff before I started doing this, and I'm pretty sure there's probably somebody in here that didn't know that either. So just be educated or educate yourself on the changing technology.
All right, don't share your private information. Next slide. All right, so the risk of it, or all the things we're talking about tonight, the one I wanted to talk about the most goes into that stalking one, because we had a really neat case that kind of went against the actual against the statistics. So abductions rarely are the panel van pulling up and snatching children. Less than 1% of abductions happen by that type of situation. Although we've seen it in the news, that's the stuff you see in the news. Kid grabbed at bus stop, kid grabbed at Walmart, kid grabbed this. Most abductions are familial. So aunt takes the nephew, mom takes the kid from dad while they're that's most abductions. But Seth here worked a fantastic case. No, it's really, really good case and terrifying case, quite frankly. So in this case, it's still pending, so we're not going to go into a whole bunch of details. But essentially, I mean, it was on the news, so you want to tell them about just spoiler?
Yeah. Really quickly, I won't share too much about it, but basically, same type of stuff we've been talking about. 12, almost 13-year-old is playing Roblox. Pretty harmless game that we would think as parents. Starts talking to an individual on Roblox. That individual kind of coaxes her over to different messaging platform, different social media platform where you could do live video chats, instant messaging, things like that. For a year, groomed her. This suspect was 34 years old, and on his birthday weekend, after grooming her for a year, drove from a different state, and
I think you should tell them what state, because it's shocking.
yeah, Wisconsin, so pretty far away, and drove just not far from this church, and snatched her up, and did some pretty horrible things. Luckily, we were able to kind of start putting the pieces together really quickly after she went missing, and was able to track her down in the state of Florida. They had almost made it to the Florida Keys, where you get on the bridge to go to the Florida Keys. My fear was that, this person was gonna, begin to get scared and maybe do something rash. But fortunately, we were able to find both of them in a parking lot of like a small shopping mall there. Recovered the child and apprehended the suspect, and was able to charge him with a multitude of felony charges. It was very, very nerve-wracking. I think I worked 16 hours straight on that with the help of a lot of people at the office, so it was a good outcome, but it could have been. I just kept thinking, because we're tracking his truck and the victim right past the Everglades, and if you know anything about the Everglades, that's a terrible thing to think as a law enforcement officer, because you would never find whatever you threw in there. It'd be gone forever. And so that was a very, very rewarding case for me. It really, really motivates me each and every day sometimes we get things that we think are small, that maybe a child made a mistake and we can clear it up, but you just never know what it will turn into.
definitely spaced aware that it's wild to me that someone would spend a year working on that
Yeah.
and then drive all the way to, like, that's just, I don't know, it's dollars.
Yeah, it's, it's a fantastic story, but so I don't want to. We like those, but that's certainly the minority of cases. Now that it is a learning point for our children, right? Because it does. You think, well, this never happens. No, it absolutely happens. It happens right here, right here in Taylor's.
Did her parents, like, were you able to go back and, like, did anybody know that he was on this, like, amazing and, or who did she think he was, or, like?
So oddly enough, most of the communication between, um, and one of the biggest reasons for him to, I don't think that he was going to abduct her straight, he was going to try to harbor and work this relationship as long as he could. He got scared because mom found out and turned around, was halfway back to Wisconsin, turned around and came back. But oddly enough, a lot of the communication that the child had with the suspect happened on a school computer. So, and that, I think we may have skipped this earlier. We're trying to teach our kids to navigate a world. Because, we grew up in one world. Our kids are growing up in two. And we're trying to teach our kids how to navigate a world, and they know that world way better than we do. And so I think I wrote down in my notes, they can circumvent a lot of things that and that's the emphasis on the education point for you, me and you. We've got to continually be learning. He reads a ton every day and learns and learns and learns, and I tell him just tell because I don't like to read. And so, but we're constantly learning because everything is always constantly changing, getting better. That's the nature of cyberspace and the internet and technology. But to answer your question, the parents really didn't know. They felt comfortable that the school computer had safeguards and things like that, which we all could make that mistake. And that was where they did most of the communication. He drove down and gave her a phone, which helped us in our investigation. Compile some evidence and really make a case against him. But like I said, he turned around to go back and was planning on coming back and forth. But mom found that phone that he brought down, thank goodness. And that helped us put all those leads together to find him.
And that so if we take our child's device away, we got to remember that for some of us who are hoarders like myself, you could probably find 1 or 10 more phones in my house that's no longer being used. And all we got to do is get power to that thing, and we are back online, right? Little bit of Wi-Fi, and we are good to go. And so it doesn't need to have service for it to be a danger. So we kind of hit this the grooming and how that works. Really, it's just treating that had a whole list of things that how does grooming work? Here's how grooming works. Somebody makes your child feel special. You can do it, or somebody else will do it. But somebody is going to make your child feel special. However they need to do that. And everybody's kids are different on what makes them feel special. It kind of goes into the 5 love languages thing, and all they got to do is find out which one unlocks it, and now that's how grooming. So that's the super short version of how grooming works. So
I'll give you a quick example in that same case. The grooming began on Roblox because on Roblox you can build characters. Building characters costs Robux. This 34-year-old has money to buy Robux. This 13-year-old doesn't. You start buying giving her Robux so she can build characters, boost the characters, boost the Roblox world, and then gain the trust of this child. And then that led to the sexual exploitation of her, and then more grooming, and then obviously the end result of abduction and criminal sexual conduct with a minor.
Yep. So what can we do about that? That's one more slide. So what can we do? Talk about it, talk about it, talk about it. And then when you're done talking about it again, about how online relationships. The thing that's not on here, I think it may be written in the notes, but and it's the practice that we both use is our kids are not friends with anybody online. Oh, it's right there. It's the second one. No, no, it's not. But it's on that thread. Our kids are not friends with anyone that they can't go up and reach out and touch. So that makes it hard sometimes in these online games, but tough. I'm sorry. You know, you can't expand your clan or whatever and talk to these other people unless you can talk to them, and we can go meet and sit down and have dinner with them. So that's a great way. The other thing that's not in this presentation, but if your kids do have devices, the recommendation that we would make is that device does not cross the barrier of their bedroom nor the bathroom. And so that means at night it's charged in the kitchen or the living room. It doesn't go in anywhere that's private and not publicly used. It's just a way to try to eliminate that risk factor of when they're taking those photos. Now, can you enforce that all the time? No, but that's why you teach them when they're 3 years old that it just doesn't happen. I've had guns in my house for my children's entire life. Not once have I worried about my children being harmed by the firearms that are in my house. Why? Because when they were this big, we were talking firearm safety. Now, does that mean I just went completely blind and just leave guns laying all over the place? No, absolutely not. But my kids know that they're not going to touch them, and if they do touch them, they know how to clear the weapon, how not to point at somebody, how not to. They respect it as a tool. They know how to shoot them. They've been shooting them since as soon as they can hold them. Why? Not because I want gun nut little kids. Why? Because I don't want the kids to get hurt. Same thing. Now take gun out, put phone in there. Same concept, right? Don't let my kids go unfettered, just out on the internet. But we've been talking about how to stay safe online for a really long time, building up to where we are today. What are we on? Let's go. Kids. I'm not entirely sure with that. Go back to that one. So, these types of, this is just a short example of a chat that was reported to NCMEC. So these screenshots and things can be made to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children if the kid is contacted by someone, whether it's a friend or a stranger. Take those, send them in, and then that stuff gets reported to us, and we can take care of it. I want to go to that photo, video. So let's go one more. This is an important one. Sexting. I know we don't like saying words like that, but it's a reality. It happens, and it happens way, way, way too much. You can see just under 20% have admitted to it, and 35% have the receiving is, yes, more have received, but 19% say they have. Yeah, that is a shocking kind of, this is from, it doesn't seem right, does it? But no, that's what it says. Again, this is probably some survey in a school. Yeah, admitted to is the key thing there. And I don't mind sharing it. When my son was like 15, we found out that him and some girl were sharing inappropriate photos with each other, and that lost his online presence for quite a while. But it's that type of thing, because typically what happens when those happen, then they break up, and then one party sends it out to everybody else, and then those end up on trade groups on Snapchat where they just get sent to the whole school just to embarrass each other. And once that happens, those videos just go out and they go on forever. But why do people do it? Let's think it's the next slide. Yeah, why do they do it? Some think it's funny. Mostly the boys think that. Some of it's to try to impress. Some of it's to try to stay in a relationship. Fortunately, my daughter was in a relationship with a young man we met. He goes to a Christian school here in the county. Seemed like a fantastic family. We really liked his parents. And she told us that she broke up with him. We're like, what happened? Because y'all were like, just like power couple, right? And she's like, well, he kept asking me for inappropriate pictures. and it just made me uncomfortable. And I was like, oh, like, I was like, yeah, let me give you 30 more minutes on your screen time. You know, that's so good, right? But like, this is a good kid. Like, we really like this kid. I mean, we went and had dinner at his parents' house. I mean, we really like this kid. But you know what? He's dead to me now. It can happen everywhere. It can happen everywhere. Why? Because kids have hormones, and it's easy to send that text that says, "Hey, send me a nude," right? That's super easy, and unfortunately, our kids are getting hit with that all the time. Kids online all the time. If this we're not a church and we want to see something more exciting, we log into a chat site right now, and I can guarantee you, if I make myself a 14-year-old girl, within 5 minutes, I'll have an adult male sending me a naked picture of himself. Guarantee it. We did it as an example for some of the media that we were doing in the office. They wanted to film how we do chat operations, and so we're like, oh, watch this, boop, 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 boop. And before they could even get through trying to set up the shot, boom, here come the first nudes coming through. Not asking, unsolicited pictures coming to somebody who is known to be a minor. And so it happens fast. All right, let's go to the next one. This is a good little video this is on NCMEC website, but it's a good video to share with your kids.
You probably get lost messages every day, but what if you got one like this? What would you do? Would you send a picture? No? Cool. That's an easy way to protect yourself. But what if you've chosen differently? What if you send the picture? They never share it with anyone else, right? Do you want the picture shared with others? Sorry, you no longer have a choice. It's out of your hands now. Because sometimes people we trust break that trust. Maybe the person you sent the picture to shows it to some friends. Maybe they send it to a couple friends, who send it to a couple more friends, who, you get the idea. It spreads, and you never know who might see it. Your little brother, your mom, other people at school, even strangers could get a hold of your picture. You never really know where that picture will end up. How long it will be out there? Or what the consequences will be. Don't let others decide what happens to your image. Think before you share. Learn more at netsmarts.org. And hey, if your image is already out there, know that it's not your fault. For information about removing sexual pictures and videos from the internet, visit missingkids.org/gethelpnow.
All right, so there are ways. So when that picture's out, it's out. There's nothing we can do about that. There are Take It Down. Is it Take It Down? Take It Down. Yeah, takeitdown.org is a NCMEC run site. And what happens is, if you have a copy of the picture, it'll allow the program will take a fingerprint of that picture, and we can talk after what that means. It'll take a fingerprint of the picture. It'll send that fingerprint to all of its partners, like Meta, which is Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, groups like that, and they'll add to their database of known images. So that those groups don't get the picture, but they get the fingerprint of the picture, which makes it detectable within the things that we use to detect that type of information. And so, does that mean it disappears? Absolutely not. It just means it gets reported every time it shows up, hopefully. And so, I can tell you I've worked cases where seemingly innocent pictures that girls and boys have sent, just a mirror selfie to a boyfriend, girlfriend, and I've arrested guys that have thousands of those pictures. And I know he didn't go collect them all himself. It's just because they get into these groups and they get traded around, they get collected. Although there are some, we worked a case a couple years ago where a guy enticing kids through sexting online. He was just meeting kids who were into some role play type things. And him as an individual, he's in his 20s, made contact with, I believe, about 1,000 different girls, exploited approximately 200 of them in 9 different countries that we were able to identify. And he should be getting sentenced in federal court within the next, couple months, I would think. And, is probably looking at 30 plus years in prison for doing that. But there's people out there that is just who they are. All right, where are we at? Addressing it. How do we? So the consequences we've kind of talked about. The humiliation once it gets found out, the bullying and the blackmail. The blackmail we've already talked about. The discipline and police involvement. The police involvement is kind of it can be kind of twofold. One is it's not our goal to go charge children who are making it to put a felony on them for making this type of content. But, and this is a big one, if they are doing it without regard to the law, we will. And so it doesn't matter whether an adult takes a picture of a child, an adult encourages a child, or a child does it on their own. If they're producing child sexual abuse material, pictures of themselves, that is against the law. And so, like I said, we don't generally charge kids who are doing that, because that's one of the fears that the abuser puts in them. You'll go to jail. You're the one. I didn't do anything. You're the one that took the picture. You're the one that's going to get in trouble. That type of situation, they're not going to get in trouble from us because they're the victim in that situation. But it's not. It's happened more than once where we've had a kid who was doing it in school and then does it again and again, and we're like, listen. Yeah, we've got to put pen to paper now because you kind of forced our hand. Well, you need to stop. Yeah. And we've found kids that they just don't care. They have no problem being naked, and they have no problem telling the whole world about them being naked. But so those criminal actions, unfortunately, sometimes it comes up. We don't try to go there, and it doesn't happen very often, but it can. So how do we address this? Is those conversations like we talked about? We've got to talk about it. We've got to have that uncomfortable conversation, just like birds and the bees. We've got to have that as a something that we're talking about with our kids, and making sure that they know what those dangers are.
Kids can be offenders, though. Kids can solicit other kids, younger kids, and we will charge them.
Yeah, if a kid.
It's not always the creepy white fat guy in the basement.
Yeah, if there's an element of blackmail to it, then we're probably going to end up charging a kid and sending him to family court. So if it's 2 kids and they've traded pictures and then so the pictures get out, we'll probably work with those kids. But if one kid is like, no, send me more, or send me do this, or I'll send these to your friends, that kid's probably going to have to go to family court. All right, let's move to the sextortion, because there's a good video coming up about how kind of sextortion looks. Can't remember if it pushes past this or not, but that's how it looks. It's just do this now, do this now, do this now. It's always very urgent. You have to do this now, or else I'm going to release all of these videos and or pictures. Generally, what we see is they have already gone to their social media accounts and scraped their contact lists, and so they'll use that as extra leverage. So they try to block them, and I need to you don't know who I am. Well, I'm about to send it to Susie. I'm about to send it to Miss Anderson. I'm about to send it to, and that now brings it very real, right? What can we do? Like we said in the examples with the young men that we've dealt with, don't comply with the demands, report it immediately. Please do not delete the app. That just makes our life almost impossible to be able to work the case at that point. And then you report it to the cyber tip line and call the sheriff's office or your local police. All right, so bullying, we talked about this very briefly a minute ago, but bullying used to mean that you were probably going to get in a fist fight, right? But no longer is that. Unfortunately, bullying happens so fast. Let's go to the next slide. Bullying happens so fast where maybe it's some disagreement between one person is bullying another person, but that could spread where now the entire world, not the entire world, but that friends group is now saying mean things in a group chat or hitting this person with more pictures or threatening messages, and they can't seem to block people fast enough to stop that onslaught. And what it does is it isolates the child, makes them feel alone, makes it feel like that nobody cares, and that's where we get into some real problems with how it affects the children, and we've seen, unfortunately, too many kids that have committed suicide as a result of cyberbullying. The biggest difference here, as it says here, because kids can't walk away from their devices, that means the bullying never stops. Face-to-face bullying, the bullying stops when you leave school, and you don't have to deal with it till the next day. Cyberbullying follows you everywhere you go, and it never stops. It goes fast and become viral, and it can it unfortunately takes on this like pack mentality where kids are just absolutely attacked by people who weren't even interested in the situation, but now are jumping into it. Okay, let's go to the next one. So the causes here, and this is how we can kind of see or maybe detect that something's going on. Does your child who uses the phone 5 hours a day now never use the phone? They just put it down, they moved away from it. Do they look nervous, act nervous every time their phone dings or rings because they're worried about it being something else? Do they not want to go to school, but you don't know why? Or they're withdrawing from their normal family and friends? If these things are happening, I just really encourage you to get into that phone and find out what's going on in their life. Sit them down, make sure that they know that they're in a safe space. That way they can hopefully disclose to you. Cyberbullying is a form of harassment, and harassment is against the law, and that is something that we can enforce. And so please let us know, because there's a lot of interventions that we can make both at the school level and at the criminal level to help stop cyberbullying and put protections in place for those kids while they're in school. All right, let's go ahead and play that one. Are we skipping it? Skipping it. All right. Oh, there we go.
Or on social media, a bully looks for ways to get power and control over another person to make that person feel bad and to make themselves look more powerful. If somebody bullies you, look at them and tell them to stop in a calm, clear voice. If speaking up seems too hard or not safe, walk away and tell a friend or talk to a parent, teacher, counselor, or any other trusted source. If you're being cyberbullied, don't respond or forward messages. Block the number on your cell phone or unfriend the person on social media. Keep evidence of the cyberbullying by saving the text, tweet, or picture and report it to an adult. If you witness bullying, speak up and let the bully know what they're doing is not okay. If the bullying continues, walk away and get help. Keep asking for help until someone listens or the situation changes. If you know someone has been bullied, be kind to them so they'll know that they're not alone. Anyone can be the victim of bullying. People bully other people for all kinds of reasons. Bullying can hurt, both physically and emotionally, but don't blame yourself. Remember, it's not your fault. You are wrong.
Oh, you poor thing. You were just lonely and needed some attention. Here, have a cookie. Okay, guys, till next time. And don't forget to come and visit me at amaze.org or go to my YouTube channel to watch more. Bye.
This is a series that's on YouTube, and we can find these videos also on the NCMEC website. But The key here is, I mean, obviously that's a video for a child, right? That we want to show them to talk, open up that discussion about bullying, and with as adults in a school setting or in a church setting, you will see bullying to some degree, but it's usually so little that you just don't, you don't worry about it. It's like, oh, did you see Susie's shoes? God, those things are so ugly. And they're like, well, if she told her that, that's just one little stab. But in cyberbullying, that comes just over and over and over and over. So it's those interventions that the video mentions, that letting know that bullied kid is not alone, because that's the biggest risk in bullying, is they feel alone. Let them know that they are not alone, that they are cared for, and we can do that, with the kids that are in our lives now, and knowing that because you may not see the big picture, you only may see that tiny little piece, but letting them know that they are loved and they're cared for, that it is that they're going to be okay, and that they have somebody that they can trust to come to, and maybe they'll disclose to you that it's worse than what you saw. Yeah, so what can we do? Save the evidence, particularly if it's bad. We need that evidence to make a harassment case. South Carolina harassment is it's establishing a pattern of behavior that causes somebody to experience emotional distress. So we need the pattern. Me coming up and telling Seth that his shoes are ugly, that's not harassment and that's not bullying. Me coming up and telling Seth every day that his shoes are ugly, that's harassment. I can't do that. That's and so we have to have that pattern established, and the way we can do that is through making sure that we save those messages, don't delete them, and communicate that with the school, whether that's here or in public school. All right, go ahead. We can skip over the side of that, and let's go back one to the prevent it. Make sure that I hate having this conversation with my teams every year, but I have to do it because it seems like even good kids get into these cyberbullying circles where, like, the girls on I have an 8th grade team and a 7th grade team. They have a group chat that's offline from the normal messaging app that we use. And it seems like every year at some point they will boot somebody out of the group chat. And whoever does that, I mean, they're warned at the beginning, like, if you do that and you exclude somebody and it turns into a bullying situation, that will be the end of their participation in our activities, because we're not doing that. One team all the way. And it's but these are all good kids. These are the best kids in the whole school, and they're still picking on each other because there's always the one weird kid or whatever. And so even on my team of perfect girls, there's you get the weird one, and they all bully her. And so trying to stay in that and keep them apart and make sure that they know that everyone is special and that is absolutely unacceptable behavior. And so we have to know, let our kids know that they cannot get sucked into that. I don't know how many times I've talked to my own children about that. They're like, oh, we're just joking, or we're just this. It's like, no, it's not that. You're making that person feel alone and isolating them. And then you set consequences. Let them know what the penalty is if they are caught, like any other type of online discipline. Anything? I think we're going to skip through the rest of bullying. So, any questions about bullying? No? Awesome. All right, so what are the options? Here's the part that everybody signed up for. We don't have them, okay? There's so many apps. There's so many different softwares. They all cost different things. They all do different things. If your kids have Androids, you have options. If your kids have iPhones, iDevices, there are options that are different. Androids, we could probably police a little closer than the iDevices, just because of the way that Androids work. But you need to look at and evaluate each one for the apps that they monitor. What monitoring do they do? What do they report back to you? Do you want to use a monitor at all? Do you want to just restrict access? Do you want to try to manage it through the built-in types of parental controls that are built into all current phones and computers? I'm not sure what the cell phone provider can provide there, but I'm but maybe.
Anything about the gas phone?
I'm not.
But what's terrible? Like service?
We felt like our girls have Wi-Fi. We swapped those out for phones, and the boys have Wi-Fi. But the girls' phones, we couldn't control incoming, anything incoming. We couldn't monitor, like from the Wi-Fi, we could, but from the phones, we couldn't monitor anything or restrict anything. And their whole thing is like, this is what, so we found that people could still get to them much
So you
faster.
can control their access, but not incoming.
Correct.
Wow.
Gas phones?
Yeah.
So we found like with our, because we had started our off with our an iPhone, I felt like I had a lot more control with the phone there than we had with the iPhone. I mean, girls.
Yeah, the parental apps are pretty. I mean, they're pretty decent as the amount of things that you can control. Like, and I don't want to. I mean, I'm not familiar enough with things like Bark and Circle to say, because some of those have the mindset of, I think it's Bark, where like they don't report stuff to you. Like you can't see their chats coming in, but like if they detect something, maybe they will, or they should notify you. But like that only works in certain apps. For a while, like it couldn't do Snapchat because on iPhones that's in a protected part of the phone that the other app can't monitor, whereas in Androids it could do it. But there's the best way to do that is keep the phones out of the private areas of your home. Go through your kids' phones. Normalize that. You know, it's not their phone. You know, that is a tool and a resource that you provide to them, and it's yours, and for them to use. Just like this phone is my work phone. Like I'm not ever going to say or do anything on this phone that I am not ashamed to let the whole world know, because, you know, one properly written FOIA request by any of you, you could probably get everything that's on here. And so there's not but our kids should have that kind of same expectation with their devices. But then for me personally, I respect that. I'm not going through their phones every single day, but I do spot check. I do, you know, if I see it sitting there, I'm gonna just flip through it real quick, see if just check the highlights, see if there's anything in there, and you do that regularly, and you make it so that it's not a big deal when it happens. Then the kids don't know any different, you know, and it's just like, why, you know, I don't think my kids have ever said, "Why are you going through my phone?" They know, because I'm looking to make sure that they're safe, not to make sure that they're in trouble. And we have I I hope you don't mind me sharing this. We have a different view on how to do this, and you want to share your view on how you.
My view is changing a little bit because in preparation for this, I've discovered one thing that is problematic for someone like me who believes in abstinence. So my kids can use their phones right now, currently, to call, and that's it. They have smartphones. I have a monitoring application on there that I can make things work on there, and I can take things away. But right now, they only have the ability to call. And so, in preparation of this, I thought about an incident I had with my oldest child, who will be 17 in January. I did discover that he had a TikTok account. And I started thinking, had I maybe been a little more lenient, and maybe you'll agree with me, I know he will, maybe I had been a little more lenient and had more open conversation rather than saying, no, you can't do stuff like that. I would have been able to have conversations with him about things like how to make your TikTok page private, because when I found it, it was not private. How to go to the settings and be able to control what people can see, stuff like that. So, abstinence for me, I think, works better for younger children, like he hit on at the beginning of the presentation about you just put the seatbelt on your young child, and as they get older, you get them to help you put the seatbelt on, things like that. I think that is a better approach. because that cyberspace is not going to go away. And they need to be able to know how to navigate it safely, um, just like we would help them navigate the real world. And so I know we had deep philosophical discussions.
We've had many conversations about this particular topic on how to
I've
do.
always been an abstinence guy, but in preparation for this, I'm more leaning more towards let's have open conversations, let's educate ourselves, let's educate our children, so they do know how to safeguard themselves, because they're going to turn 18, and they're going to, just like he was saying, took the parental controls off, or, when they move out, if you're still paying for your child's phone, the parental controls are going to come off, and they're going to experience that world, and I want them to be prepared for it, rather than just have abstinence all their lifetime. I'm not going to apply that to other areas, and other things that kids can do, but in technology, technology respect, I think that it's good to work our way to help them learn how to do it.
And I'm not on the opposite spectrum. I'm just a step away. So my kids have had phones since late middle school. My kids have been very restricted on what apps. My son got TikTok after he turned 18 years old as his own choice. My daughter does not have it. She's almost 16 years old. She had Snapchat, but because of the conversations that we had about usage and the addictive stuff about it, about 2 months ago, she went in there and said, I'm deleting Snapchat because, if my friends want to text me, they can just text me. She found herself being, feeling social pressure to respond to snaps. And when she, gets the 7th snap in a row of the floor, she's like, what am I doing? Because she has to check it because the app makes you do it. You've got to check it. But if you check it, now it shows as red. And if you leave it on red, now there's social pressure for you to respond. Because if you don't respond, then everybody's mad. Why'd you leave me on red and not respond? Well, that's because all we're doing is sending pictures of the floor to each other. And she realized that this is a massive waste of time. And so just one day she went cold turkey and deleted Snapchat, and good, because it really did. It was sucking life away. And I don't want to, I'm not trying to toot my own horn on that, but I think it's because we had a lot of conversations about the dangers of social media leading up to that she made that her own decision. I didn't take it away from her. She took it away from herself. And she's probably shuddering just because you spoke that into existence right now. She's probably getting a cold chill. She's like, I'm getting a text. I'm not speaking in front of anybody. I mean, she loves volleyball. She's been playing volleyball since she's been in 4th grade. I can't get her to help hey, I need you to come in and teach this kid for 10 minutes on how to do something. I can't do that. I can't. So public speaking, she's not there yet. We were picking, because part of college recruiting is you got to pick a major, right? And so she's like, I think I want to go into healthcare. I was like, that sounds fantastic. She hates math and she hates chemistry, but maybe she'll make it. And so we're like, pick a school. I want to go to this school. Okay, look at this degree program. And we open it up. Junior year, there's serious microbiology, serious something else, serious this. And then public speaking, she's like, I can't be a doctor now. She's like, you have to do public speaking. I was like, public speaking is the easy class in this semester. That's the gimme. That's your free 3 hours. She's like, I can't do it. I can't. It's so I don't know what she's going to do without the public speaking, but we'll get there. All right, so we are, as promised, we went overtime. But we get paid by the hour, so we want to stay here as long as humanly possible. So what questions or what can we answer for you?
I have a question for you guys, just a similar. My husband was a criminal investigator. I dealt with sex crimes for many years before we moved here. About 12 years ago, retired from it. And we've always had, our son's 10 now, we've always had these conversations here as well, not sharing private information.
Mm-hmm.
He was gifted an iPhone by my mother-in-law when he was 7, without a conversation first. And I was not able to lock down the iPhone because So
Yeah.
I switched him. I didn't want to hurt that relationship. So we got this technology a lot earlier than we wanted, that we had planned for. I switched his phone over to an Android gaming phone, and I got something called Family Link.
Yep.
Took the internet off it, the YouTube off. There's literally nothing on the phone. He could text 4 people, and he has 3 apps on there. He can't download an app unless I approve it
Right.
first.
Right.
So we're right now working in a very heavily, it's just restricted. And then having those conversations about, it's a tool. He's an acrobat. One of his teachers went to Cirque du Soleil out in California, and he wants to follow his teacher. So I was like, well, you can do that. It's a tool. I'll go on Instagram, and we can see what he's up to, follow and say that we thought that was cool. But what age do you start looking at? I set up a gaming computer in my office that has flash doors on the first floor across from the kitchen. So,
Mm-hmm.
like that, they never go there. Technology's not going
Yeah.
to the bedroom or the bathroom. So we're in that very heavily restricted, and it'll stay that way because he's 10, but in his mind he's like 13 or 14.
Yeah.
Because he's so socially advanced. What age do you start teaching them more about the tools and the consequences? And it's one of those things, you sit with them and actually go through the apps, because the cameras on our phones have location of that. We go through every permission on everything.
Yeah. So let me, so the question for the online audience is, what age do we start having those conversations? And I think what we would teach is as young as possible, but what is the age what age do we allow them to get on Instagram? Well, Instagram is going to tell you 13 years old. Snapchat's going to tell you 13 years old. And I don't know how many kids' dreams that we destroy because they lie about their age. But as soon as if they come through our office, we report that back to whatever company that is, and within minutes, that account is disabled and gone. In fact, we've inadvertently reported the account before preserving the account, and it deleted the account, because they're like, absolutely not. Now it doesn't delete like that. It still generates a cyber tip and it comes back to us. But yeah, no, you report apps for being underage and they're gone immediately. So all the social media apps require that you be 13 years old above. And the reason why is because it's unlawful for those companies to collect data on children under the age of 13. And so it's not because they don't want kids. They would love kids because that means more money, more things they can sell, more advertising dollars. It's because the federal law says you can't keep data on children this age. So 13 is a good number. Now, does that mean I'm just letting my kid get every social media app there is? Absolutely not. We started with Instagram because Instagram was it had that you're allowed to follow people that I think are famous, Michael Jordan or whoever I'm not talking about, Nikki and Sam or whoever, who are, influencers, people that I think are famous and people that people that are your friends in real life. Now, unfortunately, there's a lot of suggested content in Instagram and Facebook, and so they're going to get a lot of other things coming. But, trying to keep that stuff away from them, you just got to keep them off the app. But they're not allowed to communicate or be friends with them. But that starts all at 13. Now, our kids did have tablets at a younger age that had some online things, but it was mostly well-controlled children's games that don't have communication. One question, I wanted to share this, we'll get back to that in a second, but I'll forget it if I don't say it. We get asked often, what are the bad apps? Give me the list of your top, if you can Google it, top 10 worst apps, and somebody's made a list of top 10 worst. Here's the key. Here's the key. If you can communicate with another human being on the app, then there is an adult trying to exploit a child on the app. We've worked Roblox, we've worked with Friends, we've worked every major social company, we've worked Discord, we've worked, Microsoft, we've worked Google Docs, it does not matter. If you can communicate with another person, then somebody is on there trying to talk to children. I will bet my paycheck on it. And so Is there a safe app? Absolutely not. There's not. So does that mean we need to go full abstinence? I wouldn't, because I like the gun example there, because at some point they're going to step into a room with a lot of guns, and they're either going to know what to do, or they're not going to know what to do. Same thing. It's like when they go travel, they're going to step into a dangerous situation at some point. And have you prepared them, or have you not? You know, and that's kind of that's the discussion that we have once a month, probably. You know, over lunch. You know, discussing what's the right time. And so I don't know. And you got to judge by your kid. You know, my daughter, I would let her do things a lot earlier than I would let my son do them.
My son likes to play Fortnite with his friends from school,
Mm-hmm.
and all of them, a lot of them have the chat where they can talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not comfortable with that, and he gets real mad that he can't talk to his friends.
Yeah.
But there's so many conversations about, like, if someone asks you for your address, where do you live, there's so many, at this point, he's trained not to give any specific
Yeah.
information so it remain level.
Yeah.
But I still am not, he's too young to actually isolate.
I can't tell you how many times I went to my son while he was playing on his Xbox, and I could see, because you can see the little chat bubbles pop, you can see who's talking in his ear, like on the screen, and just asking, because you know it's all like SC Tiger 18. It's like, who's that? Who's that? Yeah. Okay, who's that guy? Oh, it's just that's Avery's friend. Nope. Avery's friend ain't your friend, you know. And then gone. You know, you ain't talking to that person. Sorry. But that's how we do it. What other questions do we have?
Can you share a little bit about the dog? I met him at some kind of fundraiser.
Yeah.
I was fast, just like real quick so people can understand.
Yeah.
They're fascinating.
So we've had two. I don't remember the year because I'm old and I forget things. But first one we had was Q, as a black Labrador, English Labrador, and then now we just got Scooby, which is a golden retriever, and both dogs are electronic detection canines, and we use them to find devices that are not that we may miss. And so typically the investigation goes. We get a tip, we do a background, we get a search warrant for the house, we go to the house, we're searching the house for electronics, we take those back, we verify that the stuff we saw in the tip, then we go arrest the bad guy. Okay, that's the 5-second version of how we do our job. Well, when we're searching a house, you know, micro SD cards are this big, and they can be hidden in all kind of different places. But they do have an odor to them, and that odor is unique to certain electronic devices. And so those dogs are able to come back and check behind us. They're not probable cause dogs. What that means is a drug dog is a probable cause dog. It means that if the dog comes up to your car or to your luggage or to your person and sniffs you and alerts, that means that we can now search you, maybe with a warrant, maybe not, depending on the circumstance, but we can search you. These dogs are not probable cause dogs. Why? Because this cell phone, that dog will alert on it, right? There's nothing illegal about that. What this dog is quality assurance. So, you know, I'm sure all of you have beautiful, well-kept homes, and we would love to search them because they're clean and nice. Not all homes are like that. Some homes you're falling through the floor because it's rotted away due to, animal waste and all kind of terrible things, and there's, bugs and trash piled up, knee deep. Well, we need a way to thoroughly search that for the purposes of protecting these kids. And so we search it to the best of our ability, and then we throw the dog in there and let the dog search it to the best of its ability. And then after that, then we feel confident that that's the best job that we could have done. And so they're just quality assurance to the work that we've done to make sure that we're searching, thoroughly. And because, I would, maybe search this chair, I'm looking at it, I don't see anything, okay, I'm moving on. Well, that SD card is now sitting just tucked up on in this little here. And I didn't see it. Why? Because I don't expect an SD card to be stuck up underneath a chair. But it happens. We found a thumb drive in a shirt pocket in a guy's closet, just in a random shirt pocket. And that thumb drive had everything that we needed to prosecute him on it. I don't go through every single pocket of every single piece of clothing that we go through. I'm lifting up the pants, I'm going through the shirts, I don't see anything, I move on. And so for all those who are watching online who are trying to figure out how to beat me, then that's it. Put it in a pocket of a shirt. I might miss it, but the dog's not. Right? We put the dog in the closet, the dog is going to alert, and because of that odor. And so that's what we use the dogs for. What other questions? I wish we had a picture of the dog, but you can see it on Facebook. There's lots of them.
What apps do you use to help monitor your children?
So I only use the built-in security on the phone itself, and use that with a heavy dose of education and communication and regular talking. And so, because my kid, well, kid now, because the other one has it all turned on, she cannot download, even at almost 16 years old, she can't download an app without me giving her permission to. Her phone cuts off at 10 o'clock at night. So the only people that she can communicate with beyond 10 o'clock is me and my wife. And there's no one else that she can talk to. She can't receive texts in. She can't receive calls in. And certain websites are blocked. Certain classes of websites are blocked. And so all that is controlled just through the app. Now, what does that not provide me? That doesn't provide me any type of real-time monitoring. So if somebody sends her a text during the daytime when she can receive those things, and it's something bad, then I'm not going to know about it unless I check it. But history has at least told me so far that that she'll come to us if something bad happens. And you want to share what you've tried? I know you've done Family Link and you've done.
I use Family Link. That's my favorite. Yeah. Now, most of the applications that will do that are going to cost money. Those are kind of built sort of like, you're basically putting spyware on the device. I like to be transparent with my kids and let them know this is what I'm doing. I do regular checks. They certainly could, delete messages and things like that. But like I said, right now, my younger son, who's 13, actually has more privileges than my older son. And so he's able to text some of his buddies, but he also shows that he could be trusted a little more than I tease that. Make it available on YouTube. But so it's a free one. It gives me location. It lets me shut everything down, except they would be able to call 911, which I think is a very valuable resource. But so that's my favorite. I've experimented with a lot of them. I've looked at the spyware payment. So it can be good. A lot of the, like, one of the biggest one is MSpy. That one's typically used to catch cheating husbands. But,
Yeah.
I've seen
MSpy.
and that's a pay one, and it will monitor, and it also has AI built into it to where when it monitors the text, there is keyword list, and it will pick up on keywords like suicide, kill myself, stuff like that, or MSpy.
Like
M.
And
this one called Canopy.
Don't know anything about that. Yeah, they.
Would you recommend turning our location off for Instagram?
So when you upload a photo to Instagram or to Facebook, that strips that data off. Talked about that earlier and they do that because it makes the picture smaller. But it doesn't protect you from when they're sending pictures other places. I am actually a fan of location data because it helps me know where my family is, and I use it all the time. Like if I want to find a picture of when last time we went at 8 o'clock, we took this great picture together, and I can't remember it. Well, I can just type in the clock, and it's going to tell me the picture that I took there, and so I like it. But I also don't talk to weird people online. So for my kids, it's turned on for certain things. Like along this vein, but different than monitoring, I love Life 360. Man, I love Life 360. My kids know exactly where I'm at. I know exactly where they're at. I know every time my son speeds. I know every time he picks up his phone while he drives, which is important to me as the insurance payer. I love knowing that, and we put that on their phones almost immediately. And now they just know. Like we've got little circles all over their friends' houses, and so like it'll beep and say he's at Jacob's house, he's at the Allen's house, he's at this other person's house, he's at work, he's at my daughter's at school. Got bubbles on top of the school, so like when they leave early, like bloop, like left the school, we're like why'd they leave the school? Are there ways around it? Yeah, they can leave their phone behind. Yeah, but it'll alert you if the location services things get turned off there. And so I love Life 360, but I also understand the concern with and why this presentation advises turn your location data off, because if your child is talking to somebody online, that information can be exploited by that person to find them. And so if it's turned on their photos and things like that, then yes, like you said earlier, you send a text message of a photo, that geolocation data is going to be on that photo, and then they're going to know exactly where they are. So.
I think all this changes like very quickly with different ages. Like we use Family Link because I can set the time to 0, and it's set to 0 every day, and he has to earn homework done. You get 20 minutes of the 2 kids cartoon. But at a certain point that's going to change where then you're going to want to do 360. But right now we're using something called a Gizmo Watch, and it's geared for I think like 10 and under, because we have a boy who likes to move sports like Daredevil. It's got a geo tracker. You can draw geofence circles for our neighborhood, and I can track them in real time. I know which friend's house,
Yeah.
which of our neighbor's house. I can see it on my phone where he is, and it'll send an alarm if he goes outside that circle, which he never has done. He's very trustworthy as far as that goes, but I wouldn't know what to do in real time if he ever did go outside that circle. Like if he was kidnapped and all of a sudden the watch is moving, what do you do in that situation?
If
I
it's
unfortunately never had to deal with that. But I
if
really
it's
how to do
if
it.
it's odd movement like that, I would call 911.
You would just call 911 before he went. Okay.
Yeah. Like if you're like he's been riding his bike around here for 2 years and never left this circle, and now he's driving 40 miles an hour down Brushy Creek Road, that's a 911 call.
You get the alert, you just call 911.
Yeah. And like I don't know what my kid's doing, but he's in a car with somebody, and I don't know what's going on, and then we'll.
Would you try calling the watch because that could
I would call 911 first. Yeah, I would call 911 first, and then because that can happen real fast. And if you guys have special needs kids, or people who do, I would normalize the wearing of watches or carrying of a phone that has location data turned on, because so many kids, particularly the ones that are elopers and run away, will run away, and if they have that watch on, man, we can find them instantly. Or if they have that phone in their pocket, we can find them instantly, rather than trying to set up giant area searches. So the way AirTags work is they broadcast a Bluetooth signal. That Bluetooth signal then reaches other iDevices. So if the person with the AirTag is way off in the middle of a field, they're not being detected by anybody. Somebody with an iPhone has to go past that. That iPhone picks up that transmission and then reports it back to Apple, that then reports it back to your phone. And so everybody's iPhones collectively are spying on each other. That's how AirTags work. That's how tiles work. That's how they all work. But and so that AirTag does not individually set up. Now, depending on where you live, an AirTag might work. I mean, that's a good, cheap, non-subscription type, alternative. But they need to be somewhere that's populated, because you need iPhones surrounding them to be able to locate them.
Right, so it works like, I've been to these at school, it's like, but
Yeah.
it only works like, when you're in the
Yeah, you have to be around somebody. You have to be within Bluetooth range of somebody with an iPhone for it to report its location. And then it reports the location generally of the phone, not the AirTag. Questions?
my kids are 4 and 6, so it's like, what's going on here?
You use the apps yourself. So they're like, hey, can I get whatever app this is? I mean, my daughter asked for some dumbest games, like, can I get this app? Okay, I look at it, read all the stuff I can, download the app myself, look and see what are the features of this, And if it's something they're going to be using long term, unlike a game, but they're using it, then you've got to become a master of that. And you're going to become their first friend, and you're going to become the best friend. And you know, all these, whatever friend action that it has in it, you're going to be that person for them so that you know how that app works. Um, because if you let your kids get smarter than you, then you're going to be behind the curve.
I interviewed Andy on the way the other day that my kids saw both my husband and I car inside at the same time, and they were sitting there. You know, when I was paying the mortgage, he was taking an email. I said, like, he was not doing like playing and ignoring the children, but they don't know that. And
Yeah.
that having, I feel like I immediately recognized that they needed to have that boundary so that whenever I tell my daughter to do something she does outside and just like looks at it, and she can't do anything on it, it's locked, but she's just like looking at it.
Yeah.
And she's mimicking me.
Mm-hmm.
And she saw that. So that like in your immediate environment, just that offline view of what your kids see you doing is I think is
Yeah. No, it is, and that goes back to the at the beginning, kind of normalizing those conversations and having open conversations about what are the real risks and dangers of these things, and we're not hiding it from them. You know, just like seatbelts are important. Why? So you stay in the car. You know, why are guns dangerous? Because they can hurt and kill people. You have to respect it. You have to, and the same thing here. We have to respect it, and we have to respect the dangers on it. And we can't say, oh, listen, you're perfectly safe, just take this. No, there's bad things on here, and I need to keep you away from those things. And just reaffirming that you're a safe space for those, you know, for that type of.
That's a good point, though, modeling good behavior, being a good example. And that's every aspect of life, but definitely in technology. I know I've worked a couple high school cases where one kid, you know, does something with another kid, they record it, and the video gets out all over the place, and you interview these children, and, you know, they're like, well, you know, my mom shares pictures, or my dad gets pictures from girls, and so they're seeing that type of behavior, and they're duplicating it. So we want them to duplicate good behavior. That's a great point.
Yeah. And I think that.
other parents. Like there's a lot more parents in the school than parents clients.
Yeah.
And like talk to them. I know she's still young. My friend is younger, but talk to them like about what you're doing. Like y'all have older kids now that have phones, and I don't know. I think that I'm not a parent. I'm an aunt to like 100 grandkids. So I just see like parents will be like, well, my kid's so good. I want to get him to do it. And I'm like, it's not about the kid being good. It's about all those bad people out there. Like my nephews are, I think they're all angels, but they're still vulnerable. But I think that if parents will talk about what they're doing, then maybe.
And I can't tell you how many pictures of 12-year-old girls that are in high-class families, and you know, who are sitting inside their double walk-in closet, taking pictures of themselves, sending it to random strangers on the internet. And these are, by all outward appearances, good kids. You know, and when we do our research, because you know we do facial recognition and we do all these other things, try to identify them. And they're like, oh look, they're the president of this, and they're on these 7 sports teams, and they're on this, and they're like, this is just like the all-American perfect little kid. Except I also have 750 images and videos of them doing things, you know, in their private space, and so you know, to think that it won't happen to me, it won't happen here. I'm you know. We talked about, you know, kind of the level of language and content that we wanted to bring, you know, to this group, and the reality is that in our office we've done search warrants everywhere from Thornblade to the worst crack houses in Greenville for this type of stuff, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter class. It doesn't matter race. It doesn't matter upbringing. It doesn't matter whether it's public school or private school. It doesn't matter if it's homeschool. It doesn't matter. That this reaches everybody, and so.
Your point, like kind of an oxymoron. You said this girl's like in her private space, in her closet. A phone's not private. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just not. I mean, when you're sending a picture out there, all these videos.
Yeah.
That. Like like physically you're in a private space, but once you put something on that phone.
No, you're right. It's gone. It's gone. It's gone forever. It's gone forever.
They have a phone, they tend to think that when they see you on the phone, they should, like, Albie thinks he should be able to use my phone, or use his phone because I'm on it, and I don't equate it to a gun, like, you can use this to go hunting and use it for a good purpose, or you can use it for something bad, I'm like, here's what I'm doing, these are recommended against you, this is our business,
Yeah.
it's a tool, but kids they'll assume that we're using it for recreation and relaxation, I'm like, no, I'm actually working.
Yeah.
This is our bank app, like, this is our business, this is, you know, these are our numbers we're watching, and they don't equate the phone to a tool and a work tool like a computer unless you're actively showing them, like, this is what I can do on my phone. Because to kids, it's an entertainment tool,
Yeah.
and that's not.
Well, I've been plenty guilty of sitting there. I think the new term now is doom scrolling. Just like, you know, I gotta go to work. And you're like, how did those last 45 minutes disappear? You know, and it's gone. But the apps are designed to do that, right? The engagement. Anyway, we have now crossed the 2-hour mark. We are setting records. So, but I've been told the door's locked from the exterior, but we are willing to stay here for as long as that you want to talk about whatever we do. So, I'm not kicking you out, but we are gonna. Do I have a business card? Yes, in my